Welcome to Employer Providers to the Hub and Data Submissions webinar. This is an opportunity for you to hear about how to upload your data and the various information that's relevant to you. This information is supported by a number of slides and a service desk that's able to help you if you should have any queries. If I can now pass over to Lynn Burden, our data manager, to talk you through the process.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lynn Burden. I'm the application manager for the data collection systems. So the ILR is a collection of information about learners and their learning. Most of the ILR data is information that training organisations would record as part of their own business processes. Full details of what is required are published in the ILR specification, and we have included a link to this document. There is a new version of the ILR specification published for each academic year, as requirements can vary. The Education and Skills Funding Agency has a funding calculation that processes the learner data and calculates payments for training organisations. So we're now going to look at the system flowchart. So the initial starting point is reference data. This is the data that the Education and Skills Funding Agency use as part of the funding calculation, and will include learning aims data, employer IDs and unique learner numbers. The next stage of the process is the tool that you'll use to create your file. So either your own MI system that you've purchased, or the ILR-Learner entry tool, which is a free piece of software provided by the Education and Skills Funding Agency. Now these systems will enable you to record your learners and produce a file that you can then submit to us. The next stage is FIS, which is the Funding Information System. This is another piece of software provided by the Education and Skills Funding Agency, and you can use this software to validate your ILR file and to produce indicative funding reports. The final stage of the process is the hub, and this is where you submit your file to us. Once we receive the file, we'll process it, produce a suite of reports, and these will show you how much money you'll earn from the file you've submitted. So the first piece of reference data is the ULN, the unique learner number. This is a number allocated to all learners from age 14 plus, and they're now frequently found on award certificates or result slips. The unique learner number stays with the learner throughout their whole learning journey, so if a learner switches between training providers, that number will stay the same. ULNs are issued and held by the Learning Record Service. You need to register for an account before you can use the service, and the registration forms and guidance are available on gov.uk. Once you've registered for an account, you can request ULNs for new learners or search to find ULNs for existing learners. The LRS has a separate service desk for queries specifically related to this service. So the next item of reference data is learning aims. So we do not fund every qualification that exists. The qualifications, known as learning aims, that we do fund are published online with the relevant funding information, and this is available on the Learning Aims tab on the Hub. You do not need an account to access this information. It's publicly available to anybody that wants to look at it. On the Learning Aims tab, you can search for individual qualifications, frameworks and standards. As well as the learning aim number, we also need you to tell us when the learning will start, when the learning is planned to end, where the learning is being delivered, funding information about the aim, which apprenticeship framework or standard the aim is part of, and when the learning has been completed. For any aims that are being delivered as part of an apprenticeship, you'll also tell us the apprenticeship contract type, which identifies if it's for a levy employer or a non-levy. The next item of reference data is the employer data. So for some learners, we need information on their employer, and this applies to all apprenticeships. Each workplace is allocated with a reference number, which training organisations get from the Employer Data Service. You need to register for an account before you can use the EDRS website, and to register for an account you need your UPIN, which should have been confirmed to you in your welcome email. A user guide is published on the EDRS website, and there is a dedicated help desk available if you have any problems registering for an account or using the website. It is important to remember that you need to request an employer identifier for each work site. So if you have a number of different branches or locations, you'll need a number for each of those different sites. Once you've got access to the EDRS website, you can search, and you may find that the numbers already exist if you've previously had learners undertaking training with a different organisation. So if we move on now to preparing the ILR files, so most training organisations have a management information system which they can use to input the required data about their learners and the learning they do. We publish a provider support manual and an apprenticeships guide which helps you to code the ILR correctly, and a link is provided for both these documents. So these documents will go through certain scenarios. For example, if you've got a learner going on a break in learning or a learner transferring to a different apprenticeship framework, and this will advise you how you need to code the ILR. MI systems are used by training organisations to run their own business processes and to monitor their learners' progress. These systems will also have the option to generate and export the required data in the specified ILR file format. The ILR-Learner entry tool is provided free of charge by the Education and Skills Funding Agency for organisations who do not have access to a data management system. This software is downloaded from the useful links area on the front page of the hub, and we also publish a user guide on gov.uk which includes guidance on how to download and use the software. We provide a new version of the software for each academic year, so you will need to download a new version when we move to the 17-18 year. So the ILR-Learner entry tool allows you to enter your learner data and create an XML file which you can validate in FIS and upload to the hub. This system doesn't do any validation, but it will require a minimum number of records in order for the file to export. If the records are in pink in the left-hand pane, then they will not be included in the ILR file as they're incomplete. So the funding information system is a piece of software we provide to help organisations check their ILR files. So FIS will check that the file format is correct. It carries out schema checks on the XML, which is the type of file used to transmit ILR data. FIS also checks the validation that we apply to the data, and data validation ensures that only good quality data is accepted by our funding systems. Now FIS can't carry out all of the validation that is done online, but it does about 95% of the checks, so it's really useful that you can run reports and identify any errors in your file before you submit your data to us. When you open FIS, it will automatically check for updates to the application and the reference data. Within FIS, there are a number of different procedures that you can utilise. The amalgamate function allows you to join together multiple files from different MI systems or departments. So you only need to use this option if you've got data recorded in different places. When you import a file, you can choose which reports you would like to run. For apprenticeship starts after the 1st of May 2017, you only need to select the rule violation reports and/or the apprenticeship indicative earnings reports. Now we do advise that when you're using FIS, you always update to the latest version, as this means your reports are going to be the most up-to-date. Within FIS, the PDRF reports are displayed on screen and are also saved to your FIS workspace. Any reports produced in CSV or Excel format are only saved to your FIS workspace. You can check the location of your FIS workspace by selecting Tools and Preferences. Now the reports will be saved there until you choose to delete them, so you can see a history of the reports you've produced. FIS is used for multiple academic years, and you can change the year by selecting Tools and Datasets and Reference. So once the 17-18 version is available, you can use the same application to check files for both academic years. The final stage of the process is submitting the ILR data to the Education and Skills Funding Agency. We have a secure online portal known as the Hub, which we use to collect your data files and share reports with training organisations. And for each organisation, you can decide who has access to the hub. You do need to register for an account for the hub using our secure website. If you're the first user to register for the organisation, you may need to contact the service centre so they can approve your account. This first account will be the super user, and the super user is responsible for approving all future access requests. They can also invite and set up roles for other users on the data collection service. We do advise having more than one super user so that if somebody's absent from work, you've got somebody else who can approve those requests. Within the data collection service, there are two different roles available to users. The provider submissions user role allows the user to submit their ILR return and view the validation reports, and the provider information officer role allows the user to view the funding and financial reports. A user can have both roles if they want to be able to submit data and view the reports, or they can have one role in isolation. This is for organisations to decide for themselves. We publish a timetable on gov.uk to show when training organisations must submit their ILR data. The ILR collections have return numbers which go from R01 to R14. The funding year runs from the 1st of August to the 31st of July, but data collections continue until late October when your final return is due. After this date, no further amendments can be submitted for that year. Between August and October, it does mean there is a requirement to submit data returns for 2 academic years. So up until mid-October, you'll be submitting 16-17 and 17-18 data. Once you've got your file ready, the steps to submit the file to us, you need to sign into the hub and move to the Data Returns tab. On that screen, under the Active Collections, you should have a link for 16-17 ILR. Once you're on that page, you'll have an option to add a file. You can then browse, select your file, and then finally click on Upload and Submit. We do recommend zipping the file before you upload it to the hub, as this will increase the upload time. Once you've successfully submitted your file, the file will be processed by the hub and a suite of reports will be made available to the organisation. The rule violation reports and the apprenticeship data match report are published on the submission screen. The rule violations report show any errors or warnings you have for your submission. Any learners that have errors will not generate any funding or payments and will not go through the data match process. Any learners that have warnings only will go through data match and will generate payments, but we do advise that you review the data to ensure that you're confident it's correct. The apprenticeship's data match report shows the details of any apprentices which cannot be fully matched to a record in the apprenticeship service. Any data match errors must be corrected before the period close, otherwise no payments will be made for these learners. So you either need to go back and amend the record in the apprenticeship service or amend the ILR data and resubmit your file. The report will show you the values which are different. The apprenticeship's indicative earnings report is available in the report zip file, which is published on the business reports tab. This report will show how much money each apprenticeship has generated. It will include learners who have failed the data match, but if these errors are not corrected, then these learners will be excluded from any payments. Any learners that failed ILR validation, so had an error on the rule violations report, will not be included on this report. After period close, a further zip file will be published on the business reports tab, which includes your 3 apprenticeship reports. That's your apprenticeship's co-funding contributions report. So for any co-funded learners, this will tell you how much money you need to collect from the employer. The apprenticeship's monthly payment report, which shows the payments and earnings for each learner you've submitted. And the apprenticeship data match report. Now this report may differ from the one produced when you submit your final ILR file, as we rerun the data match process at period end. Now we receive a feed of information from the apprenticeship service every hour, so we do have the most up-to-date information. So when we rerun that data match process at the period end, we take your last ILR submission and the most current data in the apprenticeship service. So for communications, FE Connect is an online peer support network hosted by the Education and Skills Funding Agency. There are just under 2,000 members and several data discussions start every day. FE Connect has recently been relaunched, so it's now simpler and faster to use. Now you can access this website and view the threads without registering for an account. If you want to post any questions or respond to any conversations on the website, you do need to register for an account. But this website gives you the ability to ask questions to other providers who may have had similar issues to what you're facing, or to identify key information. The Education and Skills Funding Agency produce a weekly email newsletter called Update. This is a weekly roundup of business critical information. We also publish a monthly e-news called Inform, which is aimed at MI managers, software writers and suppliers, and this focuses on data systems and reports, ILR and any other data news. You can sign up to receive a web alert when we publish these publications on gov.uk. For any further support, the service desk is available by email or telephone to answer any queries you may have on your ILR or data collections.
Thank you for your time today, and we hope this information has been helpful to you.